All right, I'm going to do a very detailed and long piece on motorcycles, and this is basically about Harleys, 98%, just because that's what we have in Arizona. So if you're not interested in motorcycles, curious about the culture, whatever, just skip this one. So this is a Harley Davidson, and this is an interesting bike. Clearly it's for sale. So it's a chopper, and that means the front end has been chopped and extended out front. This was very popular in the 60s and 70s. Imagine Easy Rider, in the movie Easy Rider with Fonda. That was a chopper. They were riding choppers, both of them. They're not practical at all. They're not that popular right now. They're for showing up and being seen. So this is also known as a Springer. Thus, you see the springs right there. The suspension is cantilevered. Right there. It's cantilevered. So it pushes down. As it goes up, it pushes down more, and that returns it to proper elevation. So, chopper. Now, oh, this is legal. Okay, so the license plate down there is typically not legal. We see a lot of those, but this does have lighting on it. Very technically, it's not legal because it can't be seen from the other side, but I don't think any cop is going to go anywhere on that. So, here's an ultra classic, and unless it's something other than a Harley, I'm not going to say that's a Harley. They're all Harleys. I think in Arizona, if you're not riding a Harley, they have an automatic execution without jury or trial. So, ultra classic is a bagger, and when I say bagger, you see those guys on the side of the saddle? Those are your hard bags. They have soft bags as well. Those are hard bags for touring, and that makes it a bagger. Example, soft bags, leather bags. They're actually inside, they're formed with fiberglass, but still a bagger. Now, if you look at these bags closely, they have speakers in them. Sound systems are a big, big deal. This is a Street Glide. There are speakers up there, just in front of the handlebars. Tunes are important. You got to have your tunes when you're riding. Reinhardt pipes. So aftermarket pipes are very common. There's a joke that the loneliest job in the world is the Harley Davidson employee that puts stock pipes on a bike. And here we go again. Look at those speakers with tweeters. So that's a stage 2. That means he's got a 500 watt amplifier on the sound system. More on that later. Here we go again with another Springer. Boy, this thing is really... So this has an exposed main drive. The belt drive, the primary belt drive right back there is not a chain, it's a belt. They last forever, 75,000 miles. But up here, normally that is encased and it's a chain. So the problem with this is you don't want to get your foot near there. And right up front, you see the pedal controls. This is a crazy, stupid bike because your foot would slip right off of that thing, just strictly for show. Strictly for show, but it's pretty. So this bike, let's start talking money. We're looking at $70,000 to $75,000 right there. Yes, I'm not exaggerating. Another rascal. Now this is a Goldwing, which is a Honda, and I had a Honda Goldwing. It's a flat opposed 6. I'm telling you, mine had the washer dryer microwave combination. It's a phenomenal motorcycle. It'll go 300,000 miles without opening the engine. but it's not a Harley. But it's strictly a cross-country machine. It's not balanced for around town. It weighs, the bikes I've been showing you so far are 800-pound category. This is 1,100, 1,200-pound category. It's a monster. Smooth as butter, and you can't hear it when it goes by. And I loved my Goldwing, but it's just wholly impractical unless you're touring around the country. And somebody got themselves a new little bike. And I'm trying to see, I've seen BMWs like this. I'm trying to see what it might be. So there comes a time when you have to hang up your spurs. And my friends that I've been riding with forever, generally it seems like 73 years old is when they hang up their spurs and they stop riding. However, some people don't, because they just love the culture so much, and it's a great culture. And so they go to Trikes. Now this happens to be an Indian, and I'll be honest, I've never seen this bike before. This is really cool. 116 cubic inches. So right down there, 116 cubic inches. That's probably 150 horsepower, something like that. Haven't seen this. Indian is trying to go head-to-head with Harley, and it's not working. They're evolving as their own brand, even though they predate Harley. So one thing is the heads are cooled, liquid cooled, which is good in Arizona. So Trikes, here's a very good example. That's $50,000, just like that, 50 grand. So the reason people go to Trikes, because they don't at all feel like a motorcycle, but you want to stay in the culture. And I can tell you, I'm a mariner, I'm an aviator, I've been in the car collector, I don't know, whatever group for decades. There's no more social group than motorcycle community. It's amazing. Custom painting, of course, that's a big deal. This is, aren't they all shiny? A lot of these guys, I hate to say it, a lot of these guys are just weekend princesses. They come here for a drink or whatever. And other than that, they don't get out of the garage very often. Now, oh my God, here's a widow killer, a widow maker. A Ducati, we call them ducks. If you're married to a guy who buys a Ducati, get some life insurance, because he gonna die. These things are stupid fast, just stupid fast, and they break down a lot. But they are, I know it sounds silly when I say that, but they are an excellent motorcycle. They just, they're so high tech that they have a lot of issues, and they will kill you. I would not get on a duck. Scary, scary, scary. So many years ago, Harley broke the 100 horsepower hurdle, and I think they were at 86 cubic inches, and people started to trick them out. And now you see right there, that's a 114. And there are things you can do to pump that up. So that's about 140 horsepower. These are, well, these right here, and these right here. Well, these are high risers, these handlebars, they're high risers. But these right here, we call these ape hangers. And you can, if you can't figure out why we call them ape hangers, you've seen these guys going down the road and their hands are above their shoulders. It's a hard bike to control. It's stupid, but it, you know, you show up and everybody goes, ooh, wow, man, look at that guy in the ape hangers. So what are you going to do? There's another 114 right there. Another 114 right there. That's currently, I think Harley's up to 117. I don't know, they can't punch these engines out anymore. They've gone so far. This is a Yamaha Victory. Sexy, huh? Not a Harley. That's a very good machine. Very, very good machine, but not very popular. It will last a long time. It will go, well, probably go 200,000 without being opened. Maybe 150,000 without being opened, but it's a good machine, but I don't know, it's kind of silly. Look at the handlebars are tucked into the fairing, and it's just, it's not a motorcycle. There's a 117 right there. That's what I'm talking about. So that's a very newish bike. So I showed you a bagger. Right here we have two side by side that are not baggers. These are tour packs. Tour packs have this situation going on. So normally I ride one up. We all ride one up. But if you ride two up, because you have a seat warmer, otherwise known as typically a woman, you have your tour pack right there. Your trunk compartment holds a lot of gear. You still have the bags on both sides, and this one has speakers. You have backrest for her, and she has foot pegs there. That one has nice fold down foot rest for her. This is older. This is maybe a 2015. But, you know, age doesn't really matter. Just keep running them. Custom disc rotors. I was wrong. 131 cubic inches. I'm going to have to look up how many horsepower that is. That's crazy fast. Well, this is Screaming Eagle engine. So that's not a Harley engine. That's a Screaming Eagle. That's an aftermarket engine. 131. I had no idea. This is a Yamaha VMAX. It's not a cruiser. It's a fast machine around the neighborhood. It's the kind of machine that you probably don't like because you see it go racing by so doggone fast. You just, you know, we all growl the way they ride these things. It's a really good machine. It's liquid cooled. Again, it's got a radiator up front and the jugs, the cylinders. These are all about 45 degree opposed. The jugs have liquid cooling. And more of the same, more of the same, more of the same. There's a tour pack. See how they're riding two up? That's a tour pack. Tour pack, tour pack, tour pack. So this backrest here, my bike has this same thing. You can clip it on, clip it off real fast, but this is not a tour pack. This is a bagger. That's a tour pack. So there's an Indian again, and you know the Indians. Well, first of all, they're like many thousands of dollars less than the Harley, so they're kind of wannabes. I'm being derisive here because there's nothing wrong with an Indian nowadays. But you see the jugs, really fat jugs. The whole motorcycle with the Indians, they just look fat. I can tell you this, nobody goes from a Harley to an Indian. Everybody goes from an Indian to a Harley. That's probably the best way to put it. So here's another Indian, and you can see the engine just looks, the whole bike looks like it has inflammation. Trikes again. Here's a 107. You're looking at $50,000. Assuming it doesn't have any upgrades, $50,000. Well, look at this. This is a Goldwing 1100, which puts it back about the 1970s when Goldwing first came out. Amazing, it's still on the road. They had a lot of problems with carburation. The disc brakes were bad news up front, but they corrected that. But it's a good machine, but it's very unusual to see a Goldwing of this vintage. Now they're 6-cylinder. This is my bike, so I'm gonna spend some time explaining some things. So this is a Street Glide Special. This is considered the Rolls Royce of Harley Davidsons. You know, as good as it gets, the best they make and all of that. So 7-inch full color touchscreen, navigation, voice command. I have Harley Stage 2 Boostmaster audio. So you see these tweaker speakers right there. That's God, what, $3,000 to put that on. I have a lot of add-on stuff for this bike. So when the bikes come out of the factory, they're stock and they're great, but then they have 3 stages of improvements you can do. So my bike has stage 1 factory. So there are 3 aspects to that. This intake right here and this pipe system right there are stage 1, plus the bike is tuned. So they go into the computer to let it breathe better, to change when the cams come on, to change the timing and all that kind of stuff. So that's about $5,000 to do that. And boy, you do feel it. Air deflectors do work. They keep the wind off your legs. But here's the most fascinating thing. This itty bitty windshield, you got to think that that's just nonsense. That can't possibly do anything. But it does. So the air comes in here and it comes out here, and whatever's coming over the windshield gets pushed up by this air. And I'm telling you, because I sit way up here above it when I'm riding, and I don't feel the wind. I can do 80 miles an hour and I don't feel the wind. It's unbelievable what they did to engineer that. And so I'm a bagger. I'm not a tour pack at all. I don't want a tour pack. I've had tour packs. Don't want anything to do with them. But this is a great machine. Extremely well balanced. Here's 103, which is presently considered to be the best engine they've ever made. 103 cubic inches. See a lot of custom air filters. Here's a 114 air filter. You know, take your pick. Are they better? Or are they not better? That's up to somebody to decide. Now here's an old one. That's an 86-inch. I've seen this guy ride though. He's considerably older than I am. And by the way, I ride with guys. One guy is 91 years old. But I've seen him ride, and he rides like butter. He rides like a ballerina. It's very impressive. So as far as vintages go, all Harleys now have a belt drive, and the belts last, well, I'm not going to say indefinitely, but 75,000 miles before you worry about it. This bike, however, is old school. It's old. It has a chain. The days of arguing whether the chain is better than the belt, those are done. There's no question about it. And this one, Harley Davidson clutch plates are bathed in oil. Some motorcycles have dry clutches, some have wet clutches, bathed in oil. This guy actually has a view window. So you can see the oil bath that the clutch is right in. It's very interesting. Now presently, Triumph has come back into the market big time. I grew up on Triumphs. I had 4 Bonneville 650s. This is a new 900. And for my money, the best money on the market for a motorcycle is a Triumph. They have the best bang for the buck. Another Indian. They have a very distinctive tail light. Take a little break here and have a talk about pipes, exhaust pipes. because I'm sure as I'm recording this, some loud ones are going to go by. And if you're not a rider, everybody wants to know, why do those pipes have to be so damn loud? They're really irritating. These guys are crazy and blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. And yeah, they are loud. First, well, on the Harleys, they are loud. Harleys have big jugs, cylinders, and they're very loud. However, first of all, and this is like 2% of the reason, the bikes do perform better with the pipes like that because they allow the bike to flow free. Unrestricted exhaust. But that's not really the reason. So there's a saying, loud pipes save lives. Loud pipes save lives. Well, I can tell you it's not just a saying. One of the reasons I got rid of my Goldwing is that you can't hear that motorcycle. You can stand right next to it and whisper and be heard. It just doesn't make any sound. And I was constantly being pushed out of my lane by cars that don't pay attention, which is a serious, serious thing with bikes. Bikes don't get into single bike accidents. They get in accidents with cars. So I would get pushed out of my lane all the time because people didn't know I was alongside them. And that's why everybody wants loud pipes. It makes a huge difference when you can be heard like that. I'm telling you, there's a reason when we come up on the highway and we start to come up on your blind side or one of your quarter panels, maybe we give it a little goose and you can really hear us. It's because we want to be heard. So loud pipes do save lives. Now, don't take that as justifying what a lot of people do, which is just making a lot of noise, and they have ridiculously loud pipes. They don't need them. They just like loud pipes. That's a whole different deal. But the stock Harley setup, which is what no, I don't. I have Screaming Eagle, but they're just a minor bit louder. The stock setup is loud, but it's very tolerable. It's about 95 dB. There are guys out there running 130 dB, which will damage your hearing. It's really bad, and it's annoying. And when they sit at an intersection, they goose the throttle, which you don't have to do. You haven't had to do that since the 1950s. So that's the explanation, though. It's because of cars, what we call cagers, and they just don't pay attention. Well, as you recall, this is a Springer. Got the springs up there. Cantilever down here. You can see how the more it pushes down, the more it's going to push back up. So that's how that suspension works. This is a hugely custom bike. But what's really noticeable about this bike is, yes, that's a tank of NOx, nitrous oxide. So if you crack that thing open, it's probably going to pull the front wheel right off of the ground. That would be insane acceleration in a big bore like this. Just crazy. So, custom from start to finish. Now, I don't even know where to start with this one. This is a pure show bike. It's really not meant to be ridden. No, I mean, it's rideable, but, you know, those are all LED projectors. Each one of those is probably blinding. Wheel speaks for itself. And you'll notice there's no front brake. That's not so good. Intake has an oblite, a glass oblite. I don't know what that's all about, but basically no exhaust. It's S&S, so it's a different engine. No telling how much power it has. It's just on display. It's not street legal. All right, so earlier I was relating to you about the journey that some few highly adventurous people make from the tip of Argentina up to the North Pole, and how there's really only one choice for that. That's the BMW. Obviously, BMW makes a lot of motorcycles. So here is the specific motorcycle by BMW, GS 1200. This is the one guy. This is the one that can do the trip and go all over the world over and over again. And it's meant to be off-road, and the majority of that trip is off pavement. It stands very tall, so if you're 6'2" and you're on the saddle, you can probably flat-foot it. If you're anything below about 5'10" or whatever, this is just not the bike for you. It stands real high because it has to go over boulders, it has to go over logs. It's meant for that kind of travel. On that trip, you can expect to do 8 to 10 oil changes and about 5 tire changes. The rear wears out 2 to 1 to the front. People normally travel with 3 spare tires on the back, 2 rear and 1 front. Unfortunately, they're different sizes. It'd be nice if you could just carry one size, but you can't. It's a beast, and it ain't cheap by far. None of these are cheap, but I mean, it's not cheap by far. And this cargo capacity, while it looks capacious, it's not enough for that trip at all. So these things are normally heavily burdened on that trip. And if you think this isn't meant to be ridden hard, you see that, call it a saddlebag right there, that cargo container, and you see how the corners have those nylon pieces on them? That's so they can rub when you lean the bike over that hard. So this thing is meant to be tortured. It's not that big by motorcycle terms in regarding the engine size. It's 1250 cc's. You can see the jugs, like most BMWs, they stand out to the side, so they get real good cooling. You can go through the water. It's got a bash plate down there. Look just below the front tire. It's got a bash plate. What else? It's just, it's not a good bike to have around here because it's just not a street bike. But it's a hell of a piece of machinery. It has a drive shaft instead of a belt or a chain. And so again, you're going through ponds, you're going through whatever, you can just torture this thing. But it's a very specific purpose motorcycle. Well, what can I say about it? Obviously, it's a show bike. And there's just no calculating how much money is in this thing. All those skull paint jobs on there, every one of those things was done by hand with a little airbrush. So that's not something that was easily applied. It's not a newer bike. It's probably at least a dozen years old. Very clean, but I gotta say, a lot of these people ride their bikes maybe 500 miles a year. They just go out to have a drink and to show the bike. This might be one of those. Then over here, we have another big wheel. And when you have a show bike and you got a big wheel or something, you park where you want to. This is not a legit parking space. But when you're showing off, when you've put another 20, 30 grand into your bike, you park where you want to, and then people take a look at it. So he put money into his fairings and his wheel, but he didn't start with an expensive bike. So, yeah, I don't know, and it's older. Each to their own. Not for me. Well, I'm surprised to see these here. These are the newest Harley release.
Is it hers?
The CVO. 121 cubic inches. It wasn't that long ago at all that we were riding 86 cubic inches. You're looking at 45 grand each. Unless they have kits on them. But anyway, they have so many features on them. They've changed the front forks. You don't have to use the clutch to shift from certain gears. What else? Look at the size of those screens up there. I mean, what is that? It's like 14 or 17 inches across there. Immense screens. I have a 7-inch full color touch screen with navigation and blah blah blah, all that kind of stuff. These are really pimped out. Everybody keeps asking, how far can Harley take the big V, the twin? Because, you know, the jugs can only go so large. You can only bore them out so much, and you can only stroke the pistons so far. But they keep on doing it, and people keep on paying the price. It's interesting to see the one on the left has high risers on the handlebars, and that's personal choice. And on the one on the right has, I don't know if those are stock. I think stock are actually even a little lower than that. I don't care for high risers at all. But, well, and then one on the left you'll also notice is carrying mirrors on top of the handlebars, which I don't like because they vibrate and it makes your image in the mirrors a little wonky. The one on the right, we call that a bat wing. That fairing, we call that a bat wing. And those mirrors are super stable, very, very stable. I like them a lot. That's what I have. But this CVO, it is now the bragging rights for Harley. So more on these CVOs, because I sit here and look at them. It's interesting. First thing is those brake pedals are huge. And I'm not sure how happy I am about that, because I can see my foot getting a little hung up on that. But, you know, if I rode it, I might have a different opinion. The other thing that you might notice, we do so much with our controls on the handlebars. So if you look just above the grips on both sides, that's how we control, well, of course, the handle, the horn, start, emergency stop, panic stop, whatever you want to call it. When you're going down, if you go down, not so good a thing to do, then you hit that panic stop. Don't forget that when you're trying to restart, or you look like an idiot. Our horn, our high beams, start, panic stop, but then we have all the navigation through the touch screens, which is the, here's an older version, which gives you your navigation, music, what else? Your Bluetooth for your phone, your intercom, your, you know, hello Google kind of stuff like that. And then ride height on the CVO, you can set your ride height. Excuse me. What else can you do with this thing? It's amazing what you can do with this thing. Cruise control, of course, they all have cruise control. And by the way, the cruise control works really, really well. I use it a lot. I like it. It's very responsive. It keeps an extremely tight tolerance. If I set it to 40, boy, it stays at 40. Of course, it can't change gears. So if if your grade changes, you're going uphill or whatever, that's up to you. And an interesting thing to cancel cruise control, because these are all fly-by-wire now. There's no throttle control by a cable. It's all electronic. So to cancel control on cruise, you rotate your throttle on the right-hand side. Instead of twisting the throttle downward from the position of your arm downward to go forward, you twist it upward, you counter-rotate it, and then that cancels your cruise control. It's a pretty sharp design. So here's something you will see occasionally, not often, this leather lanyard that's hanging from his brake handles, brake pedals, brake whatever. It flaps in the breeze. It's very stupid. It's an affectation. It means nothing. And you're normally going to see this on a guy that has a man bun, and as it happens, I watched this guy get off the bike, and he has a man bun. This is for, the whole thing, this is for a guy who went out, bought himself an old $5,000 Harley, polished it up, put that thing on it, put some really stupid mirrors on it, because he really wants to be gangsta. This is for such a wannabe And it's kind of sad to see, but it happens. Gangsta. So, British motorcycles. There are really only three. And that's the Norton, as in the Norton Commando 850, famous bike from days gone by. A lot of history written on that. They're not around anymore, but fabulous. BSA, Birmingham Small Arms BSA, not around anymore. Triumph, still going strong and make a good bike. They're twin, very reminiscent of the old bikes that they made back in the 60s, and is probably the single best bang for the buck on a motorcycle today. They're not big honking things like the Harley, but then this Triumph, which is called the Widowmaker. It's a 3-cylinder. This thing, the hallways are full of stories of guys who buy this and 2 days later go back to the dealer and they say, take this bike, give me my money, and I will never see you again. It's stupid fast, stupid powerful. It's like out of control, and you rarely see it. It's 2,500 cc's. So that's about 1,000 cc's more than most of the bikes around here. And it's bigger than, hell, it's bigger than half of the cars that are on the road. So most of the cars on the road right now, the Japanese cars, they're 2,000 cc's. This is 2,500 cc's. In a fairly light package. This is maybe 600 pounds. It's a crazy motorcycle. It's a good bike if you can handle it. I've only seen it maybe 2 or 3 of these on the road. So very unusual. I've talked to the owner of this. He's an Indian guy, East Indian guy, and he says, yeah, it's everything you've heard and more. Who are Harley Riders? Take a look. These are Harley Riders. You know, these bikes are expensive, and they're not for beginners. So you don't find a lot of people in their 40s or 50s on the Harleys. So these are your Harley Riders. Doesn't mean we don't ride hard, because we ride real hard. And by that I mean we twist the throttle, we push it. But we're experienced. We have a lot of motorcycles and a lot of miles behind us. So it's not unusual to see a couple like this. So let's talk about old school. I don't know much about them, but there are two approaches. One is original, the other is restored. This is obviously original. I would put this in the 50s. Horsepower is probably about 30, 35. Coiled spring on the Kickstarter. Springer was natural at that time. And there is great respect for the old bikes that people keep running. 2 spare spark plugs, because they foul. This is with the original blip. You know, you see Harleys at an intersection and they blip them, give a little twist of the throttle. There's no reason to do that on a modern Harley. But it comes from the old days. On these bikes, the plugs would foul easily when you were idling, and you'd have to blip them to keep the plugs burned clean. And so this guy has 2 spare spark plugs, because they will foul so badly that they won't fire again. And you have to replace the plugs when you're on the road to keep it running. All right, let's do a little tour of control. So, like an airplane, you use all 4 appendages and for multiple purposes. So, shifting, left foot, 1 down, 5 up, 6-speed. Neutral is between first and second, and yes, it's very difficult to achieve. It's just stubborn on most bikes. But you kick down 1 and then You come up 5 times through neutral for 6. Now, we use a heel-toe shifter, so you kick down with your heel. You kick down with your toe. Heel-toe shifter. Older bikes and smaller bikes have toe only, so you lift up with your left foot to go through the gears. Clutch. Just like that. Just like your clutch on your car. That's the same thing as putting in the pedal clutch on the car. You have all kinds of functions over here. Turn signal on a Harley Davidson. You have a turn signal on both sides, and it cancels automatically. You make your turn, and it cancels. On a Japanese bike, it's over here on the left side only. You push it left, you push it right. There's a button in the middle, and that's how it cancels. You got your horn, high beams, low beams, cruise control, da-da-da. That's all going on. Move over here. Obviously, the throttle. No more cables. So this is the reservoir for the front brake, hydraulic brake. This is the front brake right there. 2 disc brakes up front, 1 disc brake in the back. This is the reservoir for the clutch. No cable on the higher end bikes, it's all hydraulic. Again with the turn signal and kill switch, can't run, can run. This is emergency flashers and start. This is information, goes onto the screen right here, can tell you all kinds of stuff, amazing. This guides you through a whole bunch of stuff on your screen. Right foot, right there, that's your brake pedal. For the rear brake, which is a single disc rear brake. When you start, just like a modern car, your key fob in your pocket is all you need. You don't have a key. Crank that guy over once. There are different functions. If you crank it twice, you crank it to the left. Different functions, but you crank there. You listen for about 1 second while the it's fuel injected, not carbureted. You wait for the injectors to prime for 1 second. You're good to go. We're in neutral. It's best to start in neutral. It's you can start in any gear if you hold in the clutch, but that puts a little bit of a burden on the starter motor, so you don't really do that. Start in neutral and then come over here and Bob's your uncle. I should spend a little time on trikes, because trikes are, well, aging population. People that have been riding since they were teens and now they're 70 plus, they move to trikes, mostly because they want to stay in the motorcycle culture, because you don't have the feel of a motorcycle on a trike. But anyway, this is about, as it sits here, this is about 40,000 brand new, but nobody buys them without doing stuff, and so figure 50 grand for a trike. This is built on a on a street glide, which is nice. That's what I ride. So here's a street glide right here with all the goodies, and that's my street glide right there with the helmet hanging off of the handlebars. But this is a trike, getting back to it, that almost always is set for 2 up. I don't think I've ever seen a street glide, or a street glide, I've never seen a trike that isn't set for a passenger, cargo container, trunk. A lot of capacity for, he doesn't have side bags, which they can do. A lot of capacity for cargo. But, I mean, you want capacity. Look at this tour package. That's a lot of capacity right there. You can definitely bring home the groceries. Well, $100 groceries you can bring home in your pocket right now, but you can bring home a lot of groceries on that thing. So here we have another trike, which, as you can see, is option, because those are upgraded wheels, lots of chrome. So now you can see where we're going from 40, and the rear trunk right there, where we're going from 40,000 to easily hitting 50,000 on the trikes. You know, and that's really not so much different than the extra headlights, LEDs on the signal markers. but you know, 50,000 is easy to hit on a Harley. And it looks like they've gone stage 1. We'll have to get into what stage 1 and 2, 3, and 4 mean later on, but looks like they've gone stage 1 on this. So it's probably pushing about 92 horsepower. So more on this later. Another trike, and this is a FJB edition, which is a very popular edition. I'll leave that to you guys to figure out what that means. But my vehicles are all FJB editions. So that's, I'll leave it to you. Nice looking trike. Looks like it's built on a street glide. Yeah, built on a street glide. Older. Doesn't have a lot of the custom stuff. So you could probably, in this age, in this condition, you could probably get into this for about $25,000 if you're looking to go that way. This is slick. Look at those pipes. Ceramic coated blue. Yeah, that's nice. Haven't seen that before. So those aren't the actual pipes. Those are covers on the pipes. But nonetheless, it's hard to keep them from discoloring from the heat. Pretty cool. Again, older. But age really doesn't matter on these things. It's like an airplane. You just keep them going. You just keep maintaining them and run them forever. There's a 114 and there's a matching 114. All right, so here we are with Boogie, who's a Vietnam veteran and let me get a better focus on this, and a fellow Legion rider, and he's got this really slick trike, and he's frequently a road captain for the trikes because at Post 34 we have so many trikes that we kind of need that. So what I want to know, if you'll share it, is how different was it transitioning from 2 wheels to 3 wheels? You know, it wasn't that hard. Everybody told me I'd have a lot of trouble and everything else, but when I got on it and started riding, the big thing I had to overcome was putting my feet down. Ah, okay. I wanted to put my feet down. Right. But that only lasted a couple of stops. And but there is a difference, of course. You steer it, you don't lean it. You don't lean, okay. But other than that... now, you've got the same horsepower as on 2 wheels, and you got more weight. But you have more weight, so you're not as fast. You don't get as good a gas mileage. On my 2-wheel, I was getting anywhere from about 45 miles to the gallon. Yeah, sounds right. I'm getting about 35 with this. That's a big drop. Yeah, it is. Yeah. It is. But you have all of this cargo capacity now. I mean, that's an entire trunk, right? Yes. So you have a lot of capacity. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And, of course, the top part, and then I can put my tea bag on top. Oh, yeah. So... go cross country. Yeah, yeah. The big difference, of course, is when you're doing some of your mountain roads and there's a lot of bends and switchbacks. You got to take it a lot slower. Does it ever feel like it wants to break free on the rear end? No, not really. No? Not that I've ever had that experience. Maybe somebody else has, but no. Yeah. And I'm a long-distance rider. Oh, yeah. Okay. I ride back to Maine. Oh, wow. Florida. I've got a sister in Indiana. The club that I belong to, every year we have an annual nationals, and we all gather together. And so far, I've been to Sturgis and Missouri,
So and again this year is going to be in Sturgis.
Boy, you put a lot of miles on a bike in a year.
I've been known to put quite a bit of mileage.
Yeah. Boy, I don't anymore. You know, probably 5,000, 7,000 a year. That's about it for me anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got white man's butt. It's flat and it's hard and it can't put that kind of hours in the saddle.
Yeah, but this one here, I've got Fosgate speakers on it, which are probably top of the line. And of course, these hand rests, these arm rests, my wife likes these. And of course, we did a lot of lights. I've got lights in the front.
Yeah.
If you can't see me coming, you shouldn't be driving.
Right.
Yeah.
Got to have the lights. And so people know these things, they all have cruise control.
Yes.
Which is really nice.
Yes.
I love cruise control on my bike.
Yeah. Yeah, as a matter of fact, my last, the bike before was a Heritage. It was a 2005 Heritage. And it didn't have cruise control. And I swore the next one I'd get would be cruise control, which was a street glide. I gave that to my son. But then they came out a year or two later. They came out with cruise control on the.
Oh, did they?
Yeah. On that Heritage, and I love my Heritage. I've still got it, and I'm gonna rebuild it just for in town.
Yeah. Well, cool. All right.
Yeah.
I'll do us. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Well, what do you want to tell? Chief here, another Legion rider with Post 34. Today, he has an Indian, but you have a Harley on order somewhere, don't you? No, what do you have on order?
Another Indian.
Oh, it's another Indian.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, Indians are water-cooled jugs?
Just this model. This is the Challenger platform. It's got water-cooled heads. The rest of the Indian motorcycles all have air-cooled motors.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is Challenger the biggest platform for Indian?
It's the most horsepower and the most torque.
Okay.
There's motors that have more cubic inch, but they don't have the horsepower and the torque that this water-cooled motor puts out.
Okay.
Yeah.
But there must be more weight associated with the water cooling. Not much, but
No, I think that the other bike, let's say the one that's got the 116 motor, it's slightly heavier. This bike is extremely nimble. This thing rides like a bike without bags. It's got some technology on board that they never had before until they came out with this particular motorcycle.
nice embroidery there.
That's Chief Joseph. He's the chief of the Nez Perce Indian tribe. My great-great-grandmother was a Nez Perce Indian.
And what do you have? You have 6 speakers on this?
Yes.
Wow, and they're big too.
Yeah, they're all amplified. It's a rock and roll station, that's for sure.
Cool it.
Indian started in 1901.
Yeah.
It's gone through several iterations, just like Harley Davidson has over the decades.
But they were out of production for what, 20 years or more than
I
that?
think it was that long. Somebody always picked up the name and then started making.
Right.
You know, Hendy started making some strange-looking motors for Indian motorcycles. There for a while. Who was it? I forget the fellow's name that had the company. It's called Indian Motorcycle. They're using S&S motors. Gilroy, out of Gilroy, California, so they call them Gilroy Indians. I don't really understand more of the history. You see, I come from Victory motorcycles. I have 6 Victory motorcycles, all customs. And then Polaris owns Victory.
Right.
They started Victory before they had Indian. Along the way, the Indian name came up for sale. The guys at Polaris bought it so they could have the oldest American name in motorcycles.
Okay.
And then a couple years later, they decided that they would shut down Victory and put all their eggs in the Indian basket. This bike right here was supposed to be the 2018 Victory cross-country Raptor, and that's why my bike says Raptor. It's an homage to Victory. So Polaris shut down Victory, started making this particular bike, and it's a monster. This one's got 132 horsepower and 132
132
and
Oh,
138 foot-pounds of torque. Yeah.
That's a beast.
Yeah, I got to really be careful when I honk it on because it'll front end.
Sure it will.
Yeah. And I don't like that at my age. I don't want the front end coming up, man.
100. I mean, geez, I've got stage 1 on my street glide, and I think it only rates in about 92, 94. Yeah.
Now, these things come stock 120 horse.
Wow.
I spiffed it up a little bit. You know, I did some work to it. It's got a really expensive performance exhaust, and it's got a stage 1 system in it. So that bumped it up quite a bit.
Wow.
I'm real happy with it. It's like a crotch rocket. I mean, it's an extremely fast and powerful bike. And I put this racing exhaust on it, and it's quite loud. So riding all damn day, you know, your head hurts at the end of the day. So
Yeah.
what I did was I bought an Indian Chieftain, customized. I'm customizing that one, and it's I'm gonna keep the dual exhaust on that, so it's a little quieter. So that'll be my cruiser.
Okay.
And it's up at Sturgis being worked on right now. This is a Sturgis bike as well. This is my third Indian that I bought from Sturgis. The back of the front fender there, it's got the Sturgis emblem on it.
So what's the deal with buying? Oh, there it is. Yeah. What's the deal with buying at Sturgis? You just like to, or they get a good deal?
Sturgis is the #1 Indian dealer in the country. The largest, and number one in sales. And the first time I wanted to buy one of them, I called them, and I sponsor an Indian shop, a dealership that does racing, and I sponsor them. I called them and I said, hey, quote me on a bike. And they sent me the quote, and it was $7,000 higher than what these guys wanted.
Whoa.
For the exact same thing. So, I mean, why would you spend that
Yeah,
extra money?
sure.
So I gave Sturgis the business, and then that bike got demolished, totaled in a wreck. And then I bought this one from them, and then I bought the Chieftain that they're working on now. And they're just a great dealership. They're like family, man. I show up, and I can't, you know, JT, you need any work on your bike? Bring it in. Hey, my bike's dirty. Bring it in. Well, you know, they'll detail it for me.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when you're treated like that, you know, it's from the very first day, the sales guy treated me really well, and management knows me by first name, and it's just a good relationship. So that's why I buy my stuff from them.
That's cool.
Yeah.
All right, we'll sign off of Indian then.
There you go.
Thank you. Okay then. Excuse me. I'm going to call this a wrap on this one because it's like an hour long now or something like that. But this is not the only one. I'm going to do at least 2 more. I'm going to do Bike Week, which is deserving of its own. And I'm going to do one on the vest that we all wear and what all the patches mean. And would you believe there are certain protocols to how you wear a vest and what you can put on a vest and where you put it on a vest and all that. So that's worthy of an entire, I don't know, presentation video of its own. So hope you enjoyed this. And if you did, well, you know, click like and all that kind of stuff. Toodles.